You don't remember exactly when it started. It wasn't a single bad day or a big dramatic event. It came slowly, like fog creeping into your life without you noticing. One day, you just felt off, like something was a little heavier in your chest. Not enough to stop you, just enough to make everything feel a bit dull. Then came the quiet in your head, the kind that feels less like peace and more like something missing. The things that once made you smile started to feel far away, almost unreachable. You kept showing up at work, with friends, online. You nodded when people talked. You laughed at the right moments. But deep down, it felt like you were disappearing. You called it depression. Everyone does. That word seems to cover everything: sadness, tiredness, numbness, confusion. But what if that's not exactly what this is? What if what you're going through isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of a more honest one? Carl Jung, a famous psychologist, went through something similar. For 6 years, he dove deep into his own darkness. He didn't call it a mental breakdown. He called it a descent into the self. During that time, he wrote what would become his most mysterious and powerful work, the Red Book. He didn't want anyone to read it while he was alive. It was filled with dreams, madness, strange visions, and conversations with the unknown. But it wasn't just about being lost. It was about finding something true. Jung believed that what we call depression is sometimes the soul's way of stepping back from a life it no longer recognizes. Imagine that, your soul not giving up, but refusing to keep pretending. That deep tiredness, that sense of meaninglessness, could actually be a sign that something inside you is waking up. You're not broken. You're being pulled inward. Something deep in you is saying, this isn't it. This life, this version of you, this constant pressure to keep performing, it's not working anymore. This isn't just about emotions. It's something bigger. It's a quiet revolution happening inside you. Right now, you might feel lost. You wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. You don't care about your goals anymore. You cry alone and then pretend everything's fine around others. You've lost interest in the things you used to love. People ask you what's wrong, but you don't have the words. But maybe this isn't a problem to fix. Maybe this is a message. Think of it this way. Imagine you're in a big house. Every room is filled with people. For years, you've played different roles, smiling, being agreeable, being successful. You've tried to belong. But now, you've quietly walked down to the basement. It's cold. It's silent. You're alone. Most people feel scared and run back upstairs to the noise, to the distractions. But if you stay in that quiet, if you sit in that basement long enough, something happens. You begin to hear whispers, not from the outside, but from deep within. And one of those voices says, I've been waiting for you. That voice is the real you, the part of you that's been hidden for so long. Not the version of you who tries to be perfect, the version who just wants to be whole. Jung sat in that basement, not literally, but emotionally and spiritually. He faced the chaos inside him. He didn't run. He wrote it all down. He saw strange visions. He heard voices. He met parts of himself he never knew existed, some frightening, some wise. He didn't treat these experiences like insanity. He treated them like truth speaking in a different language. And through all the confusion and fear, he found something, his soul, his true self. That's what this might be for you. Not a breakdown, but a breaking open. Not the end, but the start of something deeper. Maybe you don't need to fix your attitude or push yourself harder. Maybe you don't need to fake a smile or pretend everything is okay. Maybe what you really need is to stop, to sit with the discomfort, and let your old identity fall apart. Because it's not you anymore. Maybe it never was. This pain you feel, This numbness, it's not weakness. It's not failure. It's a quiet rebellion. Your soul is done playing along with a life that doesn't feel real. We live in a world that tries to sanitize depression. We reduce it to brain chemicals or self-help slogans. But Jung saw it differently. He believed the soul pulls away from the surface of life not because it's broken, but because it's been ignored. Ignored by the need to please others. Ignored by the rush to succeed. Ignored by the fear of being different or misunderstood. So what did Jung do when his soul withdrew? He didn't try to fix it. He followed it into dreams, into myths, into madness. The Red Book is the record of that journey. In it, he writes about strange places, deserts, towers, snakes, gods. These weren't real in the physical world, but they were real in the symbolic world of his unconscious. He met guides like Philemon, a wise, imaginary teacher. He met the Red One, a symbol of his shadow self, full of desires, anger, and chaos. These weren't just hallucinations. They were pieces of himself he had buried. And by listening to them, he came back not crazier, but clearer. That's the message for you. The part of you that feels numb and detached is asking to be heard. Not to be judged or silenced, but to be understood. What if your sadness is not about missing something outside of you, but about losing touch with something inside you? The truth might hurt at first. You might realize your friendships aren't real, that your goals aren't really yours, that your life has been shaped by fear, not love. But this pain isn't random. It's your soul trying to wake you up. And awakening isn't pretty. It feels like falling apart. You might cry for no reason. You might lose motivation. You might feel angry or ashamed. You might question everything. That's part of the process. Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Becoming real isn't about finding peace. It's about facing the truth. Even when it hurts, you'll lose things. The approval of others, the comfort of routine, the safety of pretending. But what you'll gain is something far more powerful yourself. This is not depression. This is a soul realigning with what it truly is. Society doesn't like this. It tells you to take a pill, smile more, keep going. But people who awaken can't be lied to anymore. They don't settle for fake love. They stop chasing empty goals. They see through the masks. They become dangerous to a world built on pretending. If you're feeling like you're going crazy, like your old life is falling apart, don't panic. You're not broken. You're waking up. You're becoming someone who refuses to live a fake life just to be accepted. Someone who no longer waits for permission to feel. Someone who's done hiding. The pain you feel now, that's your soul trying to stretch, trying to grow, trying to rise inside a life that has grown too small for it. And that's not depression. That's the beginning of becoming something more. No one really prepares you for what happens when you start to wake up, not in the spiritual sense people often talk about, but in the deep, inner sense where your whole world starts to shift. People talk about healing and growth like it's this peaceful, inspiring journey. They speak of light and clarity. But what they don't say is that, at first, it can feel like you're falling apart. Not physically, but inside, in your soul. You stop pretending. You stop chasing things that used to seem important. And suddenly, everything around you starts to feel strange. You expect awakening to feel like peace, like joy, but instead, it feels like loss. You no longer feel connected to the things that used to excite you. The goals you worked so hard for begin to feel pointless. Conversations that once made you laugh now feel shallow. The music you love doesn't hit the same way. The people you were once close to begin to feel far away, even if they're right beside you. And in the silence that follows, you feel alone. It's not that you've lost everything. It's that you're realizing how much of your life was built around things that didn't really fit who you are. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in slowly. One day, you just stop texting first. You stop showing up for conversations that leave you feeling drained. You stop laughing just to keep things light. You begin pulling away, not because you're angry, but because your soul is pulling inward. You realize that many of your relationships were built on versions of you that no longer exist. You were always the one fixing things, always the one listening, always the one making yourself smaller to make others comfortable. But something changes, and you just can't do it anymore. People notice. They say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're not the same. And they're right. You've stopped pretending. You've stopped performing. You've stopped shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that no longer feel safe. And yes, it's lonely, but it's also the most honest you've ever been. In the middle of all this, you begin to grieve. Not for someone else, but for you. You grieve the version of yourself that tried so hard to be everything for everyone. The one who kept quiet to be accepted. The one who kept pushing forward, trying to earn love, trying to be enough. That version of you was doing the best they could. They were surviving in a world that didn't always welcome authenticity. But now, you're peeling off those layers. And beneath them, you feel something strange. Emptiness. But here's the thing, that emptiness isn't bad. It's not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sacred space. A clean slate. It's where something real can finally start to grow. And that's why the sadness comes. You're not just letting go of old habits. You're saying goodbye to a version of yourself that helped you survive. And even though you know it's time, it still hurts. As this transformation continues, your emotions can feel like a roller coaster. One moment, you feel calm. The next, angry. Then sad. Then numb, then clear, and back again. You start wondering, what's wrong with me? But this is normal. All the feelings you buried, shame, guilt, fear, sadness, they're rising to the surface now. They're not here to punish you. They're here to be acknowledged, to be seen. You've spent years pushing them down, but they've been there, quietly shaping your life. Now, you're giving them the space to breathe. And yes, it's chaos, but it's the kind of chaos that leads to healing. Along the way, something else shifts. You stop chasing approval. You stop needing applause. You stop caring about who's watching. You might post something important and nobody reacts, and it doesn't ruin your day. You might speak your truth and be misunderstood, and you let it be. Because for the first time, your worth isn't tied to how people respond to you. It's coming from inside. You stop chasing noise. You begin to crave peace, solitude, clarity. And that's when you begin to feel truly free. But with this freedom comes a new kind of challenge. Your honesty becomes a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see in it. When you speak calmly, people may feel judged. When you set boundaries, they might feel rejected. When you tell the truth, they could feel exposed. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your growth makes others confront parts of themselves they've been avoiding. And while it's not your job to make everyone comfortable, it can still feel heavy. But you learn to carry it with grace. You learn that being real is more important than being liked. Carl Jung, the psychologist, went through this same journey. He lost friends. He was called crazy. Even other psychologists turned away from him. But he didn't return to the life he had before. He couldn't. Once you see yourself clearly, your light, your shadow, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending everything's fine. And even if it means walking alone for a while, you know it's worth it. Because this journey is leading you somewhere deeper, somewhere true. There's no map for this phase, no set timeline. It can take weeks, months, years. It depends on how deeply you've buried your truth. But what you gain is something real. You become lighter, more sure of who you are. Not always happy, but solid, honest, grounded. And that kind of peace, it's more powerful than any smile you could fake. If you're in the middle of it right now, if you're tired, confused, aching, know this: you are not lost. You are not broken. You are not dying. You are transforming. The old self, the one shaped by fear and people-pleasing, is crumbling, and something beautiful is forming in its place. You've sat in silence. You've faced the dark. You've let go of old versions of yourself. Now you're in the middle. Not who you were. Not yet who you're becoming. And though it's uncomfortable, this in-between is where the magic happens. Here is where you learn to stop running. You stop trying to escape the pain, and instead, you learn from it. You stop pushing away the darkness, and instead, you integrate it. Because if you run from it, it just finds a new mask to wear, in addiction, in toxic love, in a life that looks good but feels empty. Jung didn't become powerful by avoiding his shadows. He became powerful by walking through them, eyes open. And you can too. So what now? You let go of the need to explain yourself. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be whole. And that means some people will think you've changed for the worse. That's okay. You don't need their permission to be who you are. Your truth is enough. You begin to accept that you were never really the roles you played. The strong one, the quiet one, the one who never said no. Those roles were armor. They protected you. But now you can take them off. You can finally be soft without being weak. You can be firm without being cruel. You can be real without apology. You start creating space in your life, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. You treat silence like something sacred. You walk. You journal. You rest. You listen. You realize that silence isn't empty. It's full of wisdom you couldn't hear when the world was too loud. You start to hear your own voice again. And that voice is honest, strong, whole. You write a new code for yourself, not based on what others expect, but based on what your soul knows. You tell yourself, I don't trade my truth for approval. I don't chase things that make me feel empty. I protect my peace. I walk away without guilt. I stop explaining my worth. I give love, but I don't beg for it. These truths become your guide, your compass, because the world will try to pull you back into the old way. But now you smile and say, I don't live there anymore. And maybe the most powerful truth of all is this: you are not just sad. You are not just tired. You are not just broken. You are remembering who you are. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. You're not lost. You're just becoming. You're not broken. You're waking up. You're still here, still breathing, still walking, even if slowly. And that means your story isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started.